is much too much, or wouldn't you say? A second is too short, an eon too long. A week is just stupid, and so is this song. Ooh, everybody's got a half an hour. Haven't you got a half an hour? This bill only needs a half an hour. So come in and stay.
Live from Bangkok, Thailand, the video podcasting capital of the world. It's the Kirchenbauer Haffenhauer, and I am Bill Kirchenbauer, your host, along with Paul Brumbaugh, who will take his annual weekly bow. There you go. And you're the most important part of the show. That's where we're. Thank you for coming by. I hope we're up to 5,000 subscribers now, and welcome to the show. We always had a little subjects that we that hit me. They usually hit me during the week. I just go, oh, that'd be a good subject for the show, and because I have opinions on just about everything. And our motto here, as you know, is I talk to myself all the time anyway, so you might as well listen in. I have been in show business for 50 years. And the one question I've always gotten from regular folks is, Bill, how do I get into show business? Or how do I get my kids into show business? And that's a hard question to answer. Because if you've ever watched American Idol or America's Got Talent, everybody wants to get into show business. And everybody thinks they have the capabilities and the talent to be in the show business. And your talent could be spinning plates or being a magician or singing, which is probably, the most common thing. I think if you want to get into the show business, don't try to be a singer. Most people want to be an actor. Well, the question is, can you act? You can get into show business doing lots of stuff. But how do you do it? Most people want to be actors. And I think the show Glee, if you remember from a few years ago, about high school with all the talented kids in it, and they actually produced some really good actor performers. All these people were okay. Now, Barrett, say this to yourself now. The person just asked me, "How do you get into show business?" Can you sing? Can you dance too? Can you act? Now, you don't have to be good looking. That's one thing that's a thing that people have in their head that's not necessarily true. You don't necessarily have to be good looking. But these people are what they call triple threats. Oh, and if you can add funny, can you be funny? Can you be really serious? Can you the triple threat is acting, singing, and dancing, and being really good at all three. So if you can't do that, or at least something close to that, and you don't have to, you can just be a good actor. But you got to remember, these are the people that are out there you're going up against. So you really have to, and your motivation, you have to look at your motivation. A lot of people just want to be famous. So they go to TikTok and they become famous. I guess on TikTok and Instagram, and they just want to be famous. Being in show business, being a real actor, that's not something you do because you want to be famous. That's not something you do because you want to make a lot of money. Because you can act and not make a lot of money.
Right.
You can work in only theater. You can work in television. Now, acting. Here's something people confuse a lot with. There's a big difference between being a broadcaster and being an actor. A broadcaster is someone who's usually on TV, and they talk to the camera like this, and they read a teleprompter, and they make it sound like they're not reading a teleprompter. And amazingly so, if you take just about any American today and hold up a piece of paper and say, read this, they're going to sound like they're reading it. I want everyone to know that this is going to be the thing, and you can watch their eyes sometimes. And it's
Right.
going to thing, and perfectly college educated, agreed people talk like that. We all want you to know that everything is safe now, and that things will get back to the where they, and a broadcaster can do that, but make it sound like he's just talking to you. A lot of actors can't do that. They can't read cue cards and still make it sound. They turn into one of these people. And newscasters can't memorize lines and know where the light is and know how to and maybe even use their body because they're used to just kind of sitting there at the table. Those are two different things, two different skill sets. And and as long as we're on this subject, people confuse being a comedian. I see this on Facebook all the time. Who's your favorite comedian, or who's a comedian you don't you hate the most? And they'll say things like Will Ferrell, Dan Aykroyd. Okay, Bill Murray. Okay, those aren't comedians. There's a big difference between a comedian, a stand-up comedian who can stand up on a stage by himself and make people laugh. That's called a stand-up comedian. A person that is in a movie that is reading from memorizing from a script written by somebody else, that's a comedic actor. And these people confuse things like this all the time. Another thing people confuse is having a sense of humor and being funny. It's two different things. Just because you go to the museum and can appreciate art and can look at a Monet and see the beauty of it and appreciate it and it touches you, doesn't mean you're a fucking painter. so, so it's two different things. Okay.
Well, so let
So
me ask you this: how much do you get asked? Especially coming off stage. You work big stages. I work a lot of smaller stages. But earlier on, how many times would you come off stage and people would go, "You're funny, man. You're really funny." They always told me I could be a stand-up comic. I should do it too.
yeah, we get that. And this is where the okay, we'll talk about this. But I want to make clear that people confuse all the time. I see people confusing. They say, "Well, I have a great sense of humor," and to them, when people say that, that means that I'm funny. No, you're not necessarily funny. You just can appreciate and understand and can put two and two together to figure out jokes, and so you have a good sense of humor. That doesn't mean you're funny. Two different things. Okay, let's get
Right.
back to show business. So people come up all the time and say, like you just said, oh, people think guys at work think I'm hilarious. Well,
Yep.
maybe you're the funniest guy in that 40 something people, but I guarantee you, whatever you're getting laughs on is what I would call local, if not just maybe company humor. And they all know you, and you're a nice guy, and they know you, so they like you. And making those people laugh is a whole different thing than getting up in front of a bunch of people that you don't know in a dark room who don't give a fuck about you, make them laugh. Now you make them laugh, now you got a trick you can do because other stuff's just locker room humor.
Right.
I know
Amen.
you, you know me.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, it's nothing more than glorified bar. But
Right.
if you can go and get up in front of people with some sort of organized thoughts of what you in your mind think are funny and make
Hmm.
them laugh. I've always hated it when other comedians come up to me and say, "Hey, Bill, you think this is funny?" I said, You're just going to get my opinion. You know who's going to tell you whether it's funny or not? The audience. So get up there and getting back to what you were saying, people say, "Well, my friend said I'm funny." And I said, "Well, either do something about it or don't. You can maybe do something about it and embarrass yourself, or not and wish you had for the rest of your life." So go about I encourage people to do it if they want, but the only way to do it is to do it. You know, you can't. You got to do it, and how do you do it? Different comedians have different techniques. Uh, Jerry Seinfeld, for example, he'll sit down and he'll write things out, or maybe on a computer or pencils. Richard Lewis used to make notes on a piece of paper that was so crumpled up that it looked like a piece of Kleenex. And I said to him one time, I said, "You ever, copy this down? Because I can barely understand it if I found
Right.
it." And it's like, you beat the fuck out of this piece of paper, man. So people different people have different techniques to come up with their comedy, which is another question I have people ask me. How do you come up with your comedy? To me, it just hits me. It's like, oh yeah. I don't sit down and go, well, I'm going to write some comedy now here. So anyway, getting back to how to get into show business. Look at your motivations first. You got to do it, like I said, it's not for money, not for fame. You want to do it because you have to do it. You have to do it. It's just something in your blood that says you have to do it. So how do you do it? I can only tell you from my experience, and that is you have to what they would call showcase yourself. And I thought stand up comedy was the thing to do. Though I had done impressions in my teens and puppets when I was a kid. People ask me, how long you been in the show business? Ever since I was like 3 years old, because I used to put on puppet shows for my class on, the day before we got off for Christmas or the last day of the school year. I had bring puppets and entertain everybody, just impromptu puppet show. Teachers didn't have to do anything and they thought it was cute. So I've been entertaining people forever. So it really truly is in my blood. I've never not been an entertainer. That's you know. So you have to look at your motivations. A lot of times people come up and say, "How do I get my kids into show business?"
Mhm.
I say, "Well, how many of them are they twins?" "Oh, well, no." I said, "Well, forget it." "Well, why?" I said, "Because they want twins." How old are they? 5? Well, you got to have two, and they got to look exactly alike. Then you got something. You almost don't have to audition because people don't realize that children can only work so long. And if you'll notice, like on Full House, those two girls, they looked alike and they would play each other, but they had to have
Right.
two of them because when they run up to 2 hours that they're allowed to be on stage, then they have to go back up and they go get the other one and come in, and nobody knew, nobody was the wiser. So usually in sitcoms and situations like that, they want to hire. If you got triplets, oh my god, that's great, because
Well, and
that's
also
three.
sometimes working with animals and working with kids, they're unpredictable. So maybe one's moody,
Yes,
one's sleepy,
that's
one's
right.
sick,
That's
right?
right. That's right. And when they get to it now, as they get older, it gets more. But then they have the thing about having to go to school, and they provide a school on my show. About four of the kids, three of them then there was a guy there. There was a teacher. He was a licensed teacher with the Los Angeles School District, but he was a private teacher that studios would hire, and they hire him and they give him a little trailer, and it's like a schoolroom. And do they get a good education? I well, guy Matt, Matt Shackman, who played my son, he's now a huge one of the biggest directors in Hollywood. So I think he probably got a good education, and then he went to Harvard or Yale. So that didn't help because he had money from the show, I guess. But you know, it seems like everybody that was a child star got pretty good education. At least now they do. So they make sure but they have to. It's a hard job for a little kid. You got to have a job, memorizing lines, and you got to go to school, and you got to eat and sleep and function.
And where
And
do
a
you
lot of
become a kid in there too, right? You have to
I
fit being
know.
a kid.
Where do you be? And then when your show gets canceled, you end up back in a private school, and all the kids make fun of you because, well, you were Bobby on that stupid show or something like that. So it can, a lot of those kids go to private schools, but it doesn't. I don't know whether kids who are 7 years old should have a full time job. They like kids that are younger than they look. The girl that played the littlest girl on my show, Heidi Ziegler. She looked like she was 5, but she was actually like 10 years old. so I mean, she could read and everything, and she had great comedy timing. But they love people if they're supposed to be young. That's why they hire 24 years olds to play 18-year-olds, and and you have problems with kids because they grow up. So if you have a sitcom over the period of time, uh, you know, there's that window where kids really change between 9 and 14. So that's always a problem. But if you want to get your kids, and then you got to get headshots, and then you got to be where there's jobs. Most people are in some market like Milwaukee, and there's no acting jobs there. You might, if you're lucky, get yourself into some sort of TV commercial, but that's broadcasting. Is community theater. I encourage that. I did community theater myself. Um, act, just do it. You try out for plays, and now to step on everything I've said up until now. Um, my recommendation right now to someone that says I want to, go to college, and college can't give you talent. You can take all the acting lessons you want in
Right.
college. That doesn't give you talent. You don't buy talent. Now you can go in and pay, and you'll be guaranteed to come out of college and be an architect. I am an architect and I can get jobs and work. But just because you go into college, you become an actor or an actress, doesn't mean you're going to come out and be, hey, I'm on the market now. Who wants to hire me?
Well, we
Nobody
have the
gives a
comedy call. We have the comedy
yeah.
college here in San Francisco, and they think, oh, yeah, I'm going to come out and be a stand-up comedian, a headliner.
Oh, a really a comedy
Yes.
college?
Yes, San Francisco Comedy College.
No.
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll have to talk about that
That's a whole
some
nother
other time.
podcast.
Yeah, because I don't. I'm always. You know how you learn to be comedy is get up on stage. Do
Yes,
the
sir.
San Francisco, and San Francisco is a great town for comedy. I
Yes, sir.
used to work the boarding house. I used to work lots of places. The Holy City Zoo with Robin
Right.
Williams,
Yeah.
and they had a lot of places for so. But you have stand up comedy. So anyway, to get into show business, I chose to showcase myself doing stand up comedy. And I
Right.
had theater experience though. So when they said upstage, downstage, right, left, go back to first, you got to have some knowledge. Excuse me. You got to have some knowledge of theater, I think, to know, how to find your light, how to time, talk. People don't realize that when they want you to start a line, hey, Dad, I think maybe we should go to the park and ride that roller coaster. And they say to you, you get a drink out of the refrigerator, and then you start saying, "Hey, Dad, I think that you need to be over at that table when you finish that line. You can't finish it in 2 seconds and then take three more steps. So you have to time that so that when you start saying that line, that you end up on the spot. They put a piece of tape on the floor. You can't see it because you're watching a TV. But if you watch, they put pieces of tape on the floor. So and then sometimes they pick them up because you kind of generally get the idea. But they'll put pieces of tape on the floor so you know right where to stand. You have to be standing pretty much on top of it. Maybe off a little bit, but not much. You got to be there so the light will hit you right. So the cameras can get you right. Maybe they're shooting over the shoulder, and you can't be blocking the person that you're standing in front of. Yeah, there's a certain
They
amount of
call it
things you got to
hitting your
know.
mark for a reason, right? They call it
Hitting
hitting
your
your
mark,
mark.
walking and chewing gum at the same time.
Right.
So you better be prepared if you want to get in the show business. Getting back to the thing, to do, maybe you play the guitar, whatever the passion is. But don't do it because you want to be famous. Don't do it because you'll make a lot of money. Because you can make a lot of money selling, being a real estate agent. You can make a lot of money doing a lot of things. But acting, singing, you better make sure that you're really good at it. And I always tell people, find your passion, find the thing you enjoy, and turn that into something you can make a living at. Because you probably can. And whatever that is, you'll be happy with it. Like they say, if you do what you love to do for work, you'll never work a day in your life. And I've been lucky enough to plan. I mean, I planned my life, and it's pretty much come out the way I wanted it at age 73. It pretty much planned. Some things weren't planned, but you know, life is spontaneous. But I've done the things I've wanted to do. So you should set a goal, and in show businesses, and I was going to say, sitting and smushing everything I've said up until now. Nowadays, I would look at someone who said they wanted to be an actor and go, "Have you heard of AI? Have you watched some of the historical things they have on YouTube about medieval times?"
Oh yeah.
I would really second put that like the B plan, because I think in the not too far future, uh, they might not need you any more than they need the people that used to make those computer cards back when I was a
In the
kid.
last year, they've had bands win awards that were AI, and they didn't realize it until, they go to give the award and they don't have actual people to give it to. It's one individual and they're outed.
Yep, it's cheaper.
Yep. One of the latest, I think it was McDonald's commercials or Coca-Cola commercials here, was all AI actors. It was all digitized.
But that says it right there. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, the unions are real. They don't. Everybody's expendable, and now it's getting really. You can. In fact, I've seen some commercials that I know are AI, um, and they've kind of semi-implanted the image of like Brad Pitt or George Clooney
Oh, that's funny.
over the face, and you look at it and you go, "That's Harrison. That's Harrison Ford, kind of."
Right, kind of.
It looks a lot like Harrison Ford.
I think there should be a disclaimer
Kind
for
of.
that. I think there should be a royalty if you're actually using a likeness of someone. We're just saying.
Yeah, the first person to ever dispute that was Woody Allen. Years ago, one of the vodka companies just used him, got a picture of him somewhere, and used him in a magazine ad for
Right.
Smirnoff or something like that. And he said, "What are you doing? You can't take my image like that." And he sued him. And he won a lot of money. Also, I'll tell you the Clausen pickle. Remember Clausen pickles? They had
Oh,
that
yeah.
kind of bird, and that bird originally did commercials and talked, and it used Groucho Marx's voice.
Oh,
So,
really?
you want to buy a pickle? There's a pickle. It's really nice to buy. The pickle, and the estate said, "Wait a minute. You can't use that. That's a distinct voice. You can't use his voice any more than you could say, 'Oh, this is really good pickle. Oh, whoopee!' Oh."
Right.
You can't do that. So it's like if you want to. Well, that's copyright infringements are very involved and technical. But anyway, getting back to being an actor, this AI stuff, I think it's going to really take over. I think the last time I went to a movie theater, they showed film. Now they
Right.
don't even do that anymore. Everything's digital. They don't have to mail the big things. People don't realize they used to have to ship. The post
Yeah,
office
like
would ship
90 millimeter film or
these
whatever.
big things that weighed 50 pounds, and each movie had about 6 of them to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd have to mail them, and then the film just to create a set for a film, like 6 reels or whatever. That would be like $5,000 just to create the film, and you want that opening in how many thousand theaters over the weekend? Well, that's 1,000 times $5,000 just to get the film, to produce the film. Then you got to ship it. Then they got to ship it back. The big pain in the ass. And so they figured out, hey, just do this digitally. Let the theater download the film or however they do it. I remember one theater I went to out in the lobby. They had these big machines that had the films like in them, and they were showing it. It was a multiplex, but they had these huge reels of the film. And I thought, wow, that is weird. Because I only saw that one time. That didn't work. That was somebody's attempt to get rid of the projectionist, I think. So
Job
anyway,
elimination at its finest. I gotcha.
yeah. So how to get into show business? I don't do whatever you think is your talent and do it good. Be a magician. People always love magicians. Chances are you won't be famous, but you can perform, and if that's what you want. A lot of people perform as a hobby, and that's perfectly all right. I know a lot of lawyers that are in bands on the weekend. And there's nothing wrong with that. So the need to perform or the desire to perform, you can fulfill that. If you want to make a career out of it, then that's something else. That's a whole nother decision. And show business, when you say show business, that's a big thing. Some people just do commercials because they look like normal people. And people need, and they love, and if you get into commercials, you can make a lot of money in residuals. But you also, I just want to say too, you have to be in the union to make any money. Otherwise, if you're doing non-union local stuff, it's here's $100.
Right.
Thanks a lot. You'll never get a residual. You'll never get any kind of thing. So it's important to get. It's kind of a catch-22, and that you have to be in a union to get a union job, and you have to have a union job to get in the union.
Right.
So it's and if you're not in a union, you could do that for years and years and years. You don't get any retirement. I mean, I get a retirement pension from the union. I get some medical stuff. I get and so along with Social Security, because that counts. But so it's good if you're going to be a professional actor, then you got to get into it, and you got to be a good actor and go out on a lot of auditions. That's the hardest part, is going out on auditions. There's a whole thing on how to go out on auditions and whether you get the part. Most of the time you won't. I've heard a lot of people, and this is in Hollywood, have to go out 25, 28, 30 times before they get a job. Because there's literally hundreds of people, and then you got to get the audition. You got to have an agent that can get the casting person for the commercials to say, "Oh, all right, we'll have them come in," and that's amongst 100 people. And if you don't have a good enough agent, they can get you in on it and send them pictures, and you look right. And sometimes they don't know who they're looking for, so the audition process is terrible. You drive all the way back, and then you'll go and audition, and then they'll say you get what you call a callback. Oh, I get to go back again and not get the job. So you'll go back again and an audition again. And then they'll call after that. They'll call, okay, we've narrowed down 2 or 3 people, have them come back in. Then you'll go back in again, drive 2 hours across Los Angeles, go back in and audition again against like 2 or 3, 4 other people. And then you still won't get the job. So, say to yourself, is this what you want to do? And with sitcoms, you got to go audition for the network, and then you got to audition for the. It's a very stressful, hard thing to do, to be a professional actor that makes money off of it. Now, there's always live theater and Broadway. That's a whole nother world. But there are people that just do commercials, and they make a lot of money on it. The progressive woman,
Oh,
Flo.
Right.
She's worth millions. She found a gig, great gig. She's a spokesman and gets paid millions. She makes like $10 million a year just doing that. So, is that a job? You front for an insurance company and make TV commercials? Damn right it is. It's a good paying job. That's all you got to do. You can take all the classes you want and go to Europe and take classes over there and stuff. But, you come back and you're Flo, but you're an actor and you're making a lot of money. So, and the Simpsons got people at the best. They don't have to dress up. They don't have to put on makeup. They don't get recognized.
Well, I was just thinking when you said Flo, I thought of Affleck. I thought of Gilbert Gottfried.
Gilbert Gottfried. Yeah, he blew a good thing, but made a lot of money doing that. So voiceover stuff, cartoons and stuff. If you get a SpongeBob or something like that, that's
Or The
great. You don't have
Simpsons,
to
yeah.
dress up. You don't have to. You don't have to be pretty. You just have to come in and do the voice and be accurate, and that's hard to do too. I've done some voiceover cartoon work. So show business is a broad. When you say you want to be in show business, it's a broad state of affairs. You can do it. People in Hollywood are from everywhere. If you go to Hollywood, they might live in Hollywood, but they came from somewhere else usually, and they just had the balls to do it, the need to do it, and they did it. And that's how you get into show business. There's no secret. Anyway, that's it for the Kirchenbauer half an hour. That's somewhere around a half an hour. Come back next week and with Paul and I. We're trying to get up to subscribers. So subscribe and like. And if I get up to 5,000, I'll put on Taking Al Back Home one night, and everybody can watch it. So take care and come back and see us next week. Have a good one.